Disclaimer: the views, information or opinions expressed in this podcast are solely the views of individuals involved and by no means represent absolute facts.
That one is an unbelievable mistake. But the other issue here is, who exactly was involved in this decision to throw away £1.7 million on Ockles? What part did MRKT play? What part did Wallace play? What part did James Beat play? Because Ridsdale, now sidestepping the issue as he usually does, seems to be passing the buck on to everybody else by telling everybody the scouting unit were adamant that we should sign Ockles, which is why, even though low had left, I decided to sign him. Otherwise, it would have been embarrassing if we pulled out. Well, what is embarrassing and humiliating is for the club, you, Peter Ridsdale, to have thrown £1.7 million down the drain, because we can't afford to make mistakes like that. And that one, in its own right, if you agree, Steve, that in its own right is a sackable offence. It really is. So that's the situation on Ockles. You've mentioned it up front before. Is there anything else to add on Ockles at all?
Not Ockles, just on Ridsdale himself. I call him the spin doctor. He comes out with fancy words like these politicians. He'll talk about a subject, but he'll spin it round and go on, and he just seems to charm his way out of anything. To me, Peter, you're just full of bullshit, mate. I'm sorry, but you don't kid me. You don't kid Andrew, and that's why you're a spent force in this industry now. You sit there in your ivory little tower on your massive salary, thinking that you're wonderful, but you're not. You're nothing at all. You've ruined a lot of stuff at this Preston North End Football Club, and you think the fans are on your side. You're nothing. They're turning against you bit by bit every season because you reside over this shit show of a season every time. Absolute turd it is, and you need to own up to it and hang your head in shame.
Yeah. So that's 2 points we've got there. Two huge mistakes he's made: Ockles, driving Miller away, and then the one that most of you don't know about, which would again have been a fantastic signing alongside the winger Bowler, was the centre forward, 22-year-old centre forward from Middlesbrough, Josh Coburn. That would have been a good signing. That got me highly excited when I heard about that. But the story I was told was that Coburn was actually on his way down to sign for us, and then Peter Ridsdale apparently screwed up the negotiations to such an extent that Coburn's agent got onto Millwall, and mid-route he was redirected to go down to Millwall, who made an offer to take him on loan, and the rest is history. Millwall fan told me one of the key reasons that Millwall almost made the playoffs was because of them using an old-fashioned style centre-forward, Coburn, who scored some good goals for them. That was a great loss as far as I'm concerned. That's the type of player we need. He's 22, he can be developed and sold on for a big profit. And then again, let's just look at the other mistakes made by Ridsdale. We were told by Heckingbottom that a bomb needed dropping on the place, implying there was going to be a summer rebuild. What happens? Just a week later, a couple of weeks later, under Ridsdale, we have the trio of Story, Hughes and Lindsay, who I call the Maginot line because they are completely lacking in pace and they have no mobility. All three were unbelievably offered new contracts and they snapped up the opportunity to re-sign for the club. That one is unbelievable because they have been a key part of the problem over the past several years. And going against his word, Heckingbottom has re-signed them as approved by Ridsdale. If I'd have been CEO and Heckingbottom had come to me with that list of players he wanted to re-sign, I would have told him, go away, think again. I want you and your so-called scouting team to come back to me with a list of young players from Premiership clubs that have been released this summer who we could sign on. They actually have genuine pace, can bring the ball out of defence, turn defence into attack, actually launch accurate passes that go to our players and not the opposition. Are you listening, Mr. Hughes? That's what should have happened. Not signing on these three. And then to add insult to injury, it now looks, as reported yesterday, as if we're going to offer a contract again to Brady and, can you believe it, Evans in a coaching capacity. Well, we were told it was a coaching capacity player role last season. 35 years old, being offered new contracts.
Welcome to Dad's Army, everybody. You could back it up. An aging team, shocking. But tell me, did Paul Heckingbottom want those three players that Andrew mentioned, the back three, to be offered new deals? Because I love Paul Heckingbottom to come out and say it was under his instructions that he wanted those to be offered new deals. So tell us, Peter Ridsdale, Paul Heckingbottom, who was behind the new deals?
Yeah, we want to understand the thinking behind it when those three, the Maginot line, with no pace, no mobility, no capability of bringing the ball out of defence, why were they offered new contracts?
And Brady, because he scores a fancy free kick against Burnley in the FA Cup. Jesus Christ.
He scored a wonderful free kick against Burnley in the FA Cup. But let me elaborate on that. It was a free kick basically against Burnley reserves. And I, at the time, mentioned, because I'd missed the teams being announced, I thought Trafford would have got to that. And then the guy sat next to me said, it's not Trafford playing, it's their reserve keeper. Because when I saw their keeper lining up for that free kick, I told the guy next to me, I said, this is going to end up in the back of the net. He's not in the right position. And Brady put it in. Superb goal. However, that doesn't make up for all the crap we've had to endure from him in the past 3 seasons. And you're going to remind me of Cardiff City.
Yeah, and he's had a red card or two as well.
Yeah.
So for me, no, he's not worth a new deal.
Yeah.
We want younger play. We want to bring the average age of the players down. So we need younger blood, not older blood. No, the age of this squad is too high. It needs bringing down.
I think the average age is 28, and I from memory, under Grayson when he left, the average age was 22, 23. The question being to Ridsdale, what has happened here? How have you allowed this to happen on your watch? The average age has moved from 23 to 28. Are you completely stupid that you don't understand? That means we've got very few players with the potential to be developed and sold on for a huge profit. Because you don't seem to understand my trader concept, but I'll go on to that in a moment. Just to finish off on Ridsdale, the final nail in the coffin is Bauer. It came out in the wash last summer when we all thought he was going to be released. Oh no, he's not been released. He's been offered automatically another 1 year contract extension. What? Contract automatically offered a contract extension for what? Based on what? It wasn't based on performances. When he first came to the club, I would never have signed him in the first place because he was 28. And I doubted what his capabilities were. However, the first 6 months, he was good. He was good. Then I think he got injured and his form went off a cliff edge and he never recovered from it.
He was good with Ben Davis when they were paired together. And unfortunately, Ben Davis thought otherwise and drifted off into the red mist of Liverpool, which was a disaster for him. And obviously Bauer then obviously went off the boil as well. I think it was a clause in his contract which triggered the extra 1 year. I might be wrong, but that is something that I did hear about. So,
yeah. So here's a lesson for you, Peter Ridsdale. On any players aged over 27, it will become part of my strategy as CEO. No player over 27 ever gets offered more than a 1 year contract extension. The challenge to the players being, so you think you're good, you get a 1 year contract extension now. The intention is after that we'll give you another 1 year, and if you continue the form, we give you another 1 year. But you will earn the right to that contract extension. It's not going to be automatically given to you as a 3-year contract, in which case you then just take your foot off the pedal and put yourself on cruise control and proceed, to put this bluntly, to take the piss out of everybody. And that's evident in Whiteman's performance, and contrary to what most of them say about Brown, up to the 3 years leading up to him departing, he was taking the almighty pee out of everybody. His form, I thought, was abysmal. And that he was then the highest paid player at the club. If you're the highest paid player at the club, commensurate with that is the responsibility that you will perform to a high standard, not once in a blue moon, but on a consistent basis, to justify you being the highest paid player at the club. But anyway, for me, to summarise, there's 4 issues there upon which Ridsdale's unsustainable position as CEO, he should be fired. That's the Ockles fiasco. That's driving Miller away when he wanted to re-sign for us, missing out on Coburn, re-signing Story, Hughes and Lindsay, and now Brady and Evans. That takes the biscuit, that one. And then having this automatic contract extension that came into play for Patrick Bauer. That contract cost us £500,000 for absolutely nothing in return. And why can't Craig Hemmings see what happened there and understand the magnitude of that mistake? Anyway, that's enough about Ridsdale. Anything else to add?
Nope, just have a fans forum.
Okay, so because of time, we're shooting on now to the retained list. You had something you wanted to say, or do you want me to kick off on that?
Kick off on that one.
Okay, I've just seen the retained list and it's a joke. I just can't believe what's happened. We were told, I've mentioned this already, that Heckingbottom had alluded to the fact he suggested there was going to be a bomb dropped on the place with rebuilding. It all turned out to be pure rhetoric, bullshit. And it seems to me as though Heckingbottom was told to pull back on his criticism of the club, because we've now got him coming out singing the praises of Craig Hemmings and his investment. But I'll cover that in the conclusion. Okay, so focusing on the retained list. So obviously, we've re-signed Story, Hughes and Lindsay. The Maginot line, as I refer to them, which means we're going to have another 2 seasons of 3 defenders if we play 3 with no mobility and no pace. Would you agree with that? Okay. Then we're going to keep Brady. There are negotiations underway. Again, a lesson for you, Mr. Ridsdale. There are no negotiations with Brady to be underway. This is where I'd love to be CEO of this club, to show you how to do it. Because this is the way you do it with Brady. He's 34. His form this season was slightly better than the previous 2 seasons before that. So when he came in with his agent to renegotiate, I would have told him, stop. And this is if I was forced to offer him a deal, which I wouldn't do. But if I was forced to, it would be a case of, there's the contract offer. It's $2,000 a week. That's from your current $10,000 a week. You and your agent, before you leave this meeting, will sign that agreement. If you don't, then I withdraw the offer and I say, farewell, it was nice knowing you. At 34 years of age, you can now go out there and get a better deal. And this is a 1-year contract extension only. You can forget another 2 years. It ain't going to happen.
There's no resale value.
No resale value. That, Mr. Ridsdale, is how you deal with these players and their agents, because you're in the driving seat. And that takes me back to the trio, the Maginot line of Hughes, Lindsay and Story. Why on earth did you offer them a contract extension in January when you could have waited till June, when you're absolutely in the driving seat in terms of negotiating with them? There'd been no negotiation with those three. I wouldn't have signed them anyway. But again, if I had to, it would be a case of, that's the deal. It's 1 year extensions. That's the money we're offering, which is a reduction. Again, before you leave this meeting, you sign on the line or I withdraw the offer. End of story. I've got a football club to run. We're going to try and make a profit. This is not a charity. So you make your decision now. If not, the offer's gone. And the situation there being, with those three players, there wasn't a queue of other clubs desperate to sign them on. In fact, I doubt whether there were any other clubs out there, certainly in the Championship, who wanted any of them. It's tough, it's brutal, but that's the way it has to be to move the club forward. Okay, so we'll see what happens there with Brady and Evans. I really hope they don't re-sign. And then absolute confirmation to me that the manager and his youth coaches haven't a clue what the hell they're doing is evident from offering Kamara a 2-year deal. Kamara will not make it as a professional footballer, and if he's watching this, I'd advise him to stick to his martial arts, where I think he was the UK's leading martial arts expert in one of those fields, and I would say stick to that, where I've been told you could actually go on to become a world champion. That's your forte. That's the route you should take, not a professional footballer. And the message to the youth coaches and Heckingbottom, that you couldn't understand that Kean Best was a better prospect than Kamara, as is Theo Mawene, who apparently you've not offered a contract to, is an absolute joke and confirmation. In absolute terms, you haven't got a clue what the hell you're doing. I don't think proper professional contracts have been offered to Theo Mawene, Stoll and Paziek, who we could lose. These are three quality youngsters who it's very unusual for us to produce such players. And no main offer has been made to them. As for Best, my message to you, Heckingbottom, is, I don't know if you agree with this, Steve, when you're paid £700,000 a year to manage a club, that's 3 times more than the Prime Minister earns. You're not paid to deal with nice Boy Scouts who are going to be pleasant to you all the time. You're going to have problems, as you apparently had with Kean Best and his father. His father apparently was demanding a higher wage for Best and that he be played more often. And I would agree with that. But what you have succeeded in doing is driving out of the club our England under-19 left back, who actually scored a 25, did you see that goal? Yeah. 25-yard thumper against Romania's under-19 team, who are a pretty good team. So it's not against a Mickey Mouse team. This is a good team. You have succeeded in driving him out for nothing. You didn't give him any chance to prove himself. And that lad, Best, he has the best, the most accurate delivery of 40-yard passes down the wing in the club. Nobody can hit passes like he can down that wing. Certainly not Hughes, who is a joke. More often than not, he passes 40 yards down the wing straight to the opposition, or ever so predictably, it's going out for a throw-in, or it's going out for a goal kick. That's what actually happens there. So, enough on the retain list. We're now coming up to the conclusion. And Steve, unless there's anything else you want to say there about the retain list.
No.
You're okay with that? Mm-hmm. So let's try and draw things to a conclusion here then. And again, jump in with whatever point you want to make. In conclusion, the Hemmings family over the past 12 years have invested £85 million into the club. As Steve and I sit here doing this podcast, there is absolutely nothing to show for it. We don't have a proper functioning youth academy that's producing a conveyor belt of talent every season, not once in a blue moon. Every season we should be producing 2 quality youngsters. But the academy status is a joke. It's an absolute joke. It needs completely revamping, and it's been completely ignored, much to the shame of the owners of the club and the manager. And in terms of assets, player assets, other than possibly Osmajic and Frockier if we're lucky, we don't have any players worth any huge profit resale. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I can't name one.
Yeah.
Other than those 2. None. Which means, Peter Ridsdale, you and your scouting system have totally failed to implement what I've been banging on about for the last 30 years, which is a trader concept, which is the idea, the strategy, here I go again, of identifying the best young talent out there in the lower divisions, about to be released by Premiership clubs on the continent, moving in there quick, signing them up, offering them 4-year deals, developing, selling, rinse and repeat. And the fact that you, Mr. Ridsdale, don't even begin to understand the trader concept, you don't understand the nuances, which is essentially, for it to work, you have to sign the youngsters under 22 years of age, because it'll take them 1 year to settle in and start proving themselves, 1 year to attract attention, by which stage they're 24. At 24, clubs are prepared to pay big money. What you've done is you signed Osmajic at 24, Frockier at 24, Frockier's now 26, or coming up to 26, Osmajic will soon be 26, and the value of those players begins to rapidly deteriorate. You don't understand how to implement the trader concept that I've been banging on about for 30 years. Criminal, what you've done. And I've mentioned it before. We haven't got time to do it now. A long list of players. Have a look at that list there. It's a catalogue of disasters. Players that we've signed and the losses we've made on them. Just look at some of them. Bayliss, £1.6 million, released on a free transfer. We paid him to leave. £1.6 million loss. Harrop, good signing, £1 million, completely mishandled by Alex Neil.
Yeah.
Ended up going on a free transfer, lost £1 million. I've got a complete list here. It's shameful. And that all happened on Ridsdale's watch. I can summarise it in one. He spent something like £20.4 million over the past several seasons, and I estimate he's lost the club 11.7, almost £12 million in player trading.
I've got what I want to add as well. You know, some other clubs have had to change their managers, and it's not been their players, their squad. Frank Lampard at Coventry. Yeah. Look how their season's gone. Yeah, Frank Lampard was made manager of Coventry. He's not made no signings. They weren't his. Look at where he's got them.
Yeah.
And who else have we got to mention?
That's a great point, Steve. So Coventry City, I'm trying to remember, weren't Coventry, when he went there, 2 points above relegation?
They were down below us.
They were down below us, as Steve correctly said. Not his team, no major signings. He turned them around, he got them into the playoffs. Not his team. He didn't have a pre-season, which is the excuse all the Preston fans use for Heckingbottom. Oh, it's not his team. He's not on a pre-season. John Eustace, Derby County, turned them around. Not his team. He didn't have a pre-season. They avoided relegation. I think they finished just above us.
Yeah.
Finished just above us. And then on that point, mighty Oxford United, mighty Portsmouth, come straight back into our division and overtake us in the first season.
Took more points off us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It beggars belief. So that's what's been going on there. The point I was just going to make there was that he's not had a pre-season, to all you Preston fans. He didn't have a pre-season, that's Heckingbottom. But he had the luxury of 3 international breaks, which equates to having the players, the squad, in-house for 6 weeks when they weren't playing any games, which is 2 weeks more than the 4-week period of pre-season. So your arguments out there where you're all making excuses for Heckingbottom doesn't hold true. He's had 2 weeks more than he would have done if it was a pre-season. And look what happened when he had those players for that 6 weeks during the international breaks. I think you'll agree with me, Steve. I could see no evidence of any coaching of players to make them better. No evidence of any joined up, cohesive play whereby we were actually opening up the opposing defence with attacking play, through balls for Reese and Osmic to run onto to finish off. There was absolutely no evidence of that. In fact, in the latter stages of the season, we were, once again, the word I use is, we were enduring, we were subjected to the likes of Hughes winning the ball in defence and without locking, pumping the ball or hoofing the ball 50 yards forward in the hope that by some miracle it might land at the feet of one of our forwards to run onto. More often than not, it landed at the feet of the opposing defenders who couldn't believe their luck and the simplicity of the style of our play that was so easy to nullify, it beggared belief.
Yeah.
Steve, anything else on that?
Nope, not really. Nothing else to add apart from who would buy a season ticket when you've made no signings? Come on. Who would buy? You would drive a car, or test a car, and just say, oh, buy it on its looks. You want to test drive it, you want to look round it. Same with season cards. If you want people to buy season cards, I know the windows aren't open yet, but let's see some signings, or let's hear about some incoming signings.
Yeah. With regards to, this comes on to the point of Heckingbottom saying that we should all doff our caps to the Hemmings family because they pump in £12 million a year. Nobody else would do it. That shows Heckingbottom's ignorance about what has actually happened. We fans shouldn't be doffing our caps to the Hemmings family. It should be the other way round. Because although I don't particularly like him, it was John Kelly who rallied round the troops, the fans, to sign a petition that was submitted to the council in Preston. And when that petition was accepted, that enabled the Hemmings family to gain permission to completely redevelop the Ingalls site, whereby I've been informed by a property developer, the Hemmings family, if they handle it correctly, the development, could make 60 million to pushing it 80 million pounds. That only happened because of the fans, the Preston North End fans, signing a petition as submitted and coordinated by John Kelly. They owe the fans big time for that one. That's a lot of money.
Right.
So, and the other point that Steve alluded to there is Heckingbottom saying, buy the season tickets, buy the season tickets. Well, you show us utter contempt. We want a clear statement of a mission, an objective. This is what we plan to achieve this season, and this is the strategy we're going to use to deliver that objective, which will be the playoffs or automatic promotion to the Premiership. But arrogantly and showing us utter contempt, you just expect fans to turn up and without knowing anything about what's going to happen, to pay several £100s for a season ticket. It's not acceptable. As you said, Steve, you want to see the product before you buy it. You want to know what you're getting into.
There's no way I would buy one and recite over another shit show of a season without seeing who we're going to be bringing in. Like I said, I know the window's not open yet, but you could at least start courting the fans with some names of players that we might be interested in.
Yeah.
It generates interest.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I suppose the last point to round this up is Peter Ridsdale, our friend Peter Ridsdale, the CEO of the club, not forgetting that he was banned from being a company director for 7 years due to not paying his taxes to the HMRC.
Oh, naughty that Peter. Very
He's
naughty.
earning £432,000 a year, and he has the audacity to sit there telling us all, well, we don't have the funding to go out there and buy top quality players. One of the reasons we don't have the funding is because you, Mr. Ridsdale, sit on your backside every year waiting for the Hemmings family to tell you what the budget will be. And then you go out and you spend it. And to put it bluntly, you piss it down the drain on useless signings. Unbelievable what you actually do. You are not worth £432,000 a year, which is more than double what the Prime Minister earns, more than a brain surgeon earns, more than an international airline pilot earns. It's a joke. I don't know how you've persuaded the Hemmings family to pay you £432,000 a year. I could do your job as CEO infinitely better, deliver trading profits, and I do it by demand at £200,000 a year. And that's straight up, because the job's not worth more than £200,000. That's the reality of the situation. So on that note, that's our update this summer. We'll see what unfolds next. I'm not too hopeful. What about you, before we go?
See you in the great room with the fans forum.
Yeah, as if, Peter Ridsdale, you haven't got the balls to take me and Steve and other fans on, 300 of us, in the great room at the club, because you know it won't be a case of questions being submitted to Ben Rhodes, who apparently decides what questions you will answer. If that's true, that's unforgivable incompetence. Okay, on that one, we draw this to a conclusion. Let's see what happens during the summer. But again, I repeat myself, I'm not too hopeful. That's it.